Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about the young man who returned from overseas to his fatherland so he could spend time with his family. This young man who has been living abroad was said to have returned to Osisioma in Abia State, where his father resides with his stepmother. Unknown to him, his stepmother was completely unhappy with his return, or more like she was unhappy seeing the young man alive, so she plotted to kill him. Can you believe that? This woman was said to have poisoned her stepson, who had just returned from overseas, and to her greatest shock, the young man survived the poison. He didn't die. She must have been worried, she must have been upset. Why would he not die? And she must have had plan B and most likely a C. So she decided to activate her plan B, which was to kill him directly. It was said that after the poison failed to kill the young man, the stepmother picked up a kitchen knife and stabbed the young man until he gave up the ghost. Now at this point I am wondering, did she drug him before stabbing him, or was he sleeping and she snuck in to stab him? You know, there are so many questions running through my mind on how exactly she was able to actualize her evil plans. I'm wondering because not so much information is available out there as to how exactly she stabbed him, but it is established that she stabbed this young man with a knife, leading him to death. And when the stepson died, the stepmother was said to have dug a shallow grave at the back of the house, more like the backyard, right, and buried the stepson. But again, I'm wondering, how could she have done that all alone? It doesn't seem like an act that could have been done so easily without an accomplice. I would say someone most likely assisted her in burying her stepson in that shallow grave. Should we even talk about digging the grave? Are we saying she dug up that grave all by herself? I doubt it. I think she had an accomplice. And I'm sure so many other youths in that community thought the same, because the story says that after she buried that young man, she and her husband continued with their lives as though nothing happened. But it is reported that the deceased, who was killed by his stepmother, appeared to his friend in the dream. And he narrated to his friend how his stepmother had killed him, and also told the friend to go look for where he had been buried so he could expose the evil that had been committed by his stepmother to bear. So the friend allegedly spoke to a few youths in the community, and they went to the deceased's house to ask the stepmother questions. When they got there, they met her with a man believed to be the husband now. So it is said that they questioned her as to the whereabouts of the returnee, but she couldn't provide any reasonable answer as to where the returnee was. Now that made these young people who had gone to ask her question to raise eyebrows, because I mean, if someone had claimed to have had a dream where his friend told him he'd been killed by his stepmother and asked him to go look for where he had been buried, and there the stepmother could not really give any reasonable explanation as to where her stepson was, it was only reasonable that the youth would suspect that truly she may have killed the young man. So they decided to, look around the surroundings of the house And when they got to the backyard, they noticed there was a place that looked like it was dug and sand put back in place, more like a shallow grave, as you would imagine. So at some point, the woman was said to have given up the information that she was determined to conceal at all costs. And that led her to digging of the shallow grave where she had buried her stepson, to the gory sight of onlookers. The body of the deceased was lying there in the shallow grave and eventually exhumed. However, an Instagram user with the handle Mimi Beauty Concept 43 holds a different opinion and narrative as to what exactly happened to that young man in Osisioma, Abia State. According to that Instagram user, she said the incident happened around her area in Abia State, and she did said the young man is 25 years old and he asked his father for a room out of the many rooms which he had rented out, but the father declined to give him a room as he had requested. So in her own account, the father of the 25 years old young man and his stepmother plotted and killed the young man, proceeded to bury him in a shallow grave behind the house. She said the neighbors were the ones who noticed foreplay and informed the youths, who thereafter paid the parents a visit, demanding to know the whereabouts of the 25 years old returnee. And when the father and stepmother couldn't provide any reasonable explanation as to the whereabouts of the boy, the youths did more finding and discovered that there was a shallow grave at the back of the house. That led them to force the husband and his wife to dig up the grave, leading to the shocking discovery. The angry youths were seen in that video, forcing the woman alongside the husband to carry the corpse of the deceased round the city in Osisioma, Abia State. It's so heartbreaking, really. It was a very gory sight, seeing the body of the deceased that way. And I wished the youths, even though they were upset at the discovery they had made, but I really wish they had handled the whole situations better than they did. I mean, they didn't have to parade the corpse of the deceased the way they did, without any form of dignity, and I wish they did better. And in an attempt to also shame the perpetrators of the evil act, talking about the stepmother of the deceased and her husband, they also stripped them naked while they paraded them all over the streets alongside the corpse of the deceased. Now, human dignity is something many people in this part of the world hardly understand. Yes, somebody may have committed a heinous crime, and yes, it is highly condemnable, but then that is not the way to go about it. There are security agencies saddled with responsibilities of ensuring that people who perpetrate such evil behaviors or acts are made to face the wrath of the law. There are due processes that must be followed to ensure that justice is served in every given situation. So even if they feel justified doing what they did to the perpetrators of that crime, how do they justify them parading the deceased in that manner without any form of dignity? We've got so much to learn in this part of the world when it comes to human dignity and human rights. But it is highly condemnable what that woman and her partner did to that young man, and sincerely hope that they will be made to face the full wrath of the law, and as there are consequences to every form of actions. This is one subject that must not be swept under the rug. That young man deserves justice. His loved ones, his friends, they all deserve justice. It's a very cold world out there, and you cannot be too careful in the times that we are in. The times are really evil, and the heart of men are I can't even begin to describe. But you know what they say? The heart of man is really desperately wicked. Do your bit to ensure that you're cautious out there with whomever you're with, wherever you are, whatever you do. Don't just lose guard and assume that the next person has got your back. You have your back first. So guys, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please click the subscribe button and click the notification button so you'll be the first to know when next we upload our story. And if you enjoyed watching this video, please like it, leave your thoughts in the comment section, and do well to share this video. In the meantime, take care of yourself, take care of your emotions, take care of your mental health. Be kind to yourself, be kind to the people around you, and always stay safe. And in the spirit of the 16 days activism against gender-based violence, please say no to gender-based violence and every other form of violence. I remain Dorcas Ige Olukun, and I love you all.